Hey, good evening, everyone. I am recording a video message here because it would basically be a little bit too much to put down in text, but I've gotten several emails specifically about Process Post 2 that have made it apparent to me that several of you have not been reading the book as we've been going along, and I've even had people ask if the book is going to be required for this course. The short answer is that it absolutely is required. The book, you don't have to necessarily buy it. I know that it's expensive. When we first started this, it was $50. I thought it was the same thing. I know now that it is more than that. But the book is going to be vital going forward in the course. This is material that I would normally cover in class during a lecture, but because we're not having a face-to-face course, much of this material needs to be covered through the textbook and through on your own individual recognizance, basically. Now, when I said you don't necessarily need to buy the book, that's because we keep a reference copy at the Thompson Library. If you don't want to buy the book, I encourage you to slot out some time to, whenever there's a reading assignment, go to Thompson and take advantage of that resource. But no, the book is not optional. It is absolutely required. For example, part of what's covered in there is the difference between a primary source and a secondary source. And I've had several people email me and ask, what is a primary source? We're going to get into more detail about that in the coming weeks in a recorded lesson talking about how to use primary sources versus secondary sources. But at this point in the course, it is important to know what a primary source is. Basically, a primary source, and I'll give you the quick rundown now. You'll still have to read the book, but this will give those of you who haven't had access to it yet a general idea of what to be looking for in terms of your sources. A primary source is any piece of original content. A print advertisement is a primary source. A first-hand account of a historic event is a primary source. A piece of music is a primary source. A YouTube video, if it's creative content, is a primary source. A music video is a primary source. A movie is a primary source. Newspaper accounts can be primary sources. Basically, any piece of original content. This is separated from secondary sources in that secondary sources are not original in and of themselves. They're not like, to go back to the example of first-hand account of a historic event. So the first-hand account of a historic event would be a primary source. A historian writing about that first-hand account or writing about that historic event further in the future is a secondary source. Secondary sources comment upon primary sources or upon the context that surrounds primary sources, and they use primary sources, but they are not themselves firsthand. So an advertisement would be a primary source, but somebody commenting on an advertisement or doing a rhetorical breakdown of the advertisement is not a primary source. The point of this right now, of Process Post 2 in particular, is to encourage you to start thinking about what primary source you're going to want to use for your main project for the rest of the semester. Right now, you're not married to the topic that you choose. It's not going to be, the one thing that you have to work on. We're still brainstorming, which is why part of the assignment is to pick 2 primary sources and to start evaluating them. In order to do these summaries that are required in Process Post 2, you've got to think critically about the source. You've got to think about what is interesting about the source, what stands out about it, what do you find intriguing, what do you find revealing, what catches your eye, basically. And this is the first step to analysis. This is very, very basic stuff. It's going to get more complex as we go along, but right now we are sort of flexing our rhetorical analysis muscles for the first time. I've told several of you through conversations via Skype and on the phone, but it bears repeating here, and I think emphasizing here. We are not working on a literary style analysis. We're working on a type of analysis that can be abstracted to fit into each of your individual fields. The science of communication works whether you're an engineer, a business major, a scientist, a historian, or a welder. We all need to communicate with one another, and we all need to make sure that we're communicating what we intend to and not things that we do not intend to. It also helps to be able to know when you're being manipulated or lied to, for example. When you start analyzing materials as part of this course, you're going to start doing it in your daily lives as well, and it's just going to become second nature after a while. So that's the utility value there. I guess that's about all I have to say for now. The primary sources for process post 2 are just to start out, just so we're, starting to think about what we're going to do for the paper. And it's a scaffolded paper, and we're going to build on it throughout the semester. But right now, we're still just sort of testing the waters. And that's perfectly fine if you don't know what you want to work with all semester. What I'm asking for now are ideas. And if you're having trouble coming up with ideas, it would be an appropriate place to mention it would be within process post 2. And then I can offer suggestions based upon the kinds of things that you are interested in, things that you might be interested in working with for the duration of a semester, which is a long time, and it's also a long paper. Sort of beyond that, places to look for primary sources, you don't have to just use the library, you don't have to just use Creative Commons. Those are resources that are available to you, but they're not things that I'm going to require. The sky's the limit. Basically, if you can defend your choice of primary source, I'm okay with it. There are some caveats, and if I have a question about your source, or if I don't think that it's going to work very well, I will reach out to you individually and say, hey, change this. But, as a general rule, if you're interested in it, if it fits within the course theme, if you think you can make it work, if you think you can find research material later on, to support arguments about this source, then I'm fine with that. All right, that was about all I had for now. As always, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to email me. If it's something that's not well contained within an email, feel free to schedule a time to talk to me by phone or by Skype. I have my set office hours, but I'm available most evenings and in a more limited set of time frames during the weekend. So just contact me in advance. I can probably schedule a time to talk. During the week, it's to be by Skype or by phone. On weekends, I can come to campus for limited meetings if you guys want to meet up in like libraries or a coffee shop or something like that. That being said, I do prefer Skype or phone. All right, that's it for now. Best of luck on your process to this week, and I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with.